The moment I opened my eyes, the world narrowed to white lights and antiseptic air. My head pulsed with confusion, not pain, like someone had rewritten my past with a shaky hand. Doctors hovered, murmuring jargon I didn't understand. A nurse smiled too much. Then she walked in, black dress, dark brown hair pulled into a flawless bun, eyes like polished glass, unreadable. She didn't rush to me, no tears, no trembling lips. Just a quiet, "You're awake." I stared at her. Something tugged at the edges of my mind, a whisper of her laugh, a memory of her hand in mine, but I couldn't place it, so I lied. "Who are you?" She flinched, barely, but I caught it. "I'm just a friend," she said after a beat, the syllables careful, calculated. "You've been in an accident. I've been visiting, of course, but it's okay if you don't remember me." I nodded slowly. "I see." I didn't. Within an hour, she was arranging for my release, not a parent, not a sibling. She signed papers like she had the legal right to. The nurses assumed she was my girlfriend. She didn't correct them. Outside the hospital, a black car waited. Not a cab, a driver in uniform opened the door. We rode in silence through a city I no longer recognized. My supposed apartment turned out to be a penthouse overlooking the skyline. She had the key. Inside, everything was sleek, masculine, cold. No photos, no signs of life. She walked in like she owned the place, or had once. "So," I said, watching her set down her bag, "were we close?" She paused at the window, her back to me. "We had history." That night I couldn't sleep. Every drawer I opened revealed suits tailored to my frame, colognes I didn't recognize, watches I couldn't afford. Was this really my life? The next morning I saw it, a framed newspaper clipping hidden in the drawer under the bed, a photo of me and her at a gala, arms around each other, smiling. The headline, "Rising Tech Heir, engaged to Dawson Group CEO's daughter." So, just a friend, huh? Later that afternoon, at her suggestion, we visited her family's estate, a sprawling villa by the coast. I was barely out of the car when her father greeted me with an icy smile. "So the prodigal returns," he said. "Or what's left of him?" Inside, they talked business. Not with me, but about me. Her father, her uncle, even a suited man I didn't recognize, discussed my stake in something called the Sinclair merger. When I asked questions, her grip tightened on my wrist under the table. Back in the car, I confronted her. "Why didn't you tell them I have amnesia?" "They know," she said. "They just don't care." She turned to face me then, inches away, voice low. "I needed you to show up today. For me. I'm handling everything, and you owe me that." "I owe you?" My laugh was hollow. Her expression cracked. "You think I wanted this? Do you think I chose to be the one cleaning up your mess while you forgot everything?" The car jolted to a stop outside the penthouse. She reached for the door but hesitated. I reached out first, catching her wrist. "Just tell me one thing," I whispered. "Were we in love?" She didn't answer, but her eyes shimmered, just for a moment. Then she pulled away. That night, someone tried to break in. I was alone, staring at the moonlit skyline, when I heard the door click. I moved silently through the shadows, grabbed a sculpture from the shelf like a weapon. The intruder wore black. A mask. They fled when I shouted, but not before dropping something. A flash drive. I plugged it into the laptop. Files, photos, videos. The first clip, her. At another man's penthouse, laughing, kissing him, whispering something I couldn't hear. The date in the corner, 2 days before my accident. I didn't sleep that night. The video played on repeat, every frame a scalpel. Her smile, her body leaning into his. The timestamp burned behind my eyes. I memorized his face, sharp jaw, auburn hair, a smugness that clung to him like aftershave. The next morning I confronted her. She walked in like always. Perfect makeup, power heels, coffee in hand. I didn't say a word at first. Just opened the laptop and hit play. Silence. Then her voice. "So that's what they left." "They?" I echoed. Her jaw clenched. "It's staged. A hit job. Someone wants to tear us apart. We're not together, remember?" I folded my arms. "You're just a friend." She stepped closer. "You don't understand what they'll do if they think you've really lost everything. Then tell me. My voice dropped. Because the man in that video didn't look like someone you were forced to kiss. She stared at me for a long time. Then, for the first time, her voice trembled. It was a setup. I needed him to believe we were over. It was strategic. I didn't believe her, but I didn't stop her when she placed her hand on mine. Her fingers were cold. Please, she whispered. Don't fight me right now. Not yet. I let her touch linger, not out of affection, but calculation. I needed her close to learn what she was hiding. That afternoon, she dragged me to a board meeting. Her family's holding company, a polished room full of predators. I sat at the head, pretending confidence. She guided me with subtle cues, a glance here, a tap there, through language I should have known. I played along, until one man, Vincent Brown, head of Global Ops, raised his hand. Mr. Cross, would you still support the merger terms you negotiated before your incident? The whole table froze. She spoke before I could. Of course he would. The terms were aggressive but brilliant. I gave a nod, vague and slow. Vincent smiled, but his eyes didn't. After the meeting in the hallway, she cornered me. They know something's off, she said, gripping my lapel. You need to act like him, like the man you were. I don't know who that is. She leaned in, her lips brushing my cheek. Deliberately close, deliberately tender. Then let me remind you, she whispered. It was calculated affection. I knew it, but for a moment I didn't pull away. That night I tracked down the man from the video. His name was Clay Monroe, Wall Street golden boy, frequent headlines, rumored to have torpedoed rivals just for sport. I waited for him in his usual rooftop bar, the kind of place with private elevators and staff who called him Sir with clenched teeth. He arrived, alone, cocky. I followed him into the restroom, locked the door. You were with her, I said. Why? He looked at me, confused, then smirked. Ah, the amnesia's real, huh? He didn't even deny it. She came to me, said you were unstable, dangerous, said she needed protection. Protection? From you, apparently. I lunged, fist to jaw. He staggered back, laughing through blood. You still hit like the old Cross, he muttered. Then he dropped the line that chilled me. You're playing the wrong game, man. She's not trying to save you. She's trying to replace you. When I got back to the penthouse, the door was open. Inside, the place had been ransacked. And on the kitchen counter, a knife was stabbed through a folded note. All it said was, tell her to stop digging, or next time, it won't be your apartment we cut open. The note was no bluff. By morning, she'd disappeared. I called, messaged, even buzzed the driver. No one knew where she'd gone. The building's concierge swore she hadn't come back last night, and the security cams? Wiped. Someone knew how to vanish. That left me with one option. I went to the Dawson estate. The same house where she'd paraded me like a trophy now felt hostile. Guards at the gate stalled me until I dropped her name and threatened to call the press. Inside, her father met me with scotch in hand and contempt in his voice. You should have stayed quiet, Mason, he said, not even pretending. You had your clean slate. Now you've stirred ghosts. I'm looking for her. He didn't flinch. She left last night. Said she needed space, didn't say where. I didn't believe him. Neither did his daughter's dog. The Doberman that usually guarded the east lawn now limped beside the pool, wounded. That night I found her. She was at a private clinic on the outskirts of the city, not on any hospital registry, the kind of place where reputations were stitched, not wounds. She was alone in a recovery suite, sitting upright with an IV in her arm and a fresh bruise beneath her eye. Jesus, I breathed. She looked up, startled. Then calmly, you shouldn't be here. I crossed the room in 2 steps. Who did this? I don't know, she said flatly. They grabbed me outside the penthouse, asked what I told you, then they let me go, that's all. That's not all, I snapped. You were digging. For what? Her lips parted, then closed, then softer. Do you know what your father left behind? I stiffened. He died when I was 16. Not legally. His estate was sealed. Your family trust tied to offshore accounts, silent shares in Dawson Holdings. You were always the leverage and the risk. She leaned back against the pillow. You were supposed to marry me. That was the deal. It tied the companies together, kept the board loyal. And the accident? Too convenient to be coincidence. For the first time, her fingers reached out not to manipulate, but to cling. I didn't think they'd hurt me. I thought I was still one of them. She was trembling. I sat beside her, took her hand. It was the first time we didn't posture, didn't lie. Just two people caught in the machinery of the elite. For 3 minutes, we said nothing. Then a nurse entered with a tray of pills and whispered something in her ear. Her face went pale. "They're coming," she said. "We have to leave, now." Outside, a sleek black van blocked the parking lot. Men in suits stepped out. I yanked her IV. She hissed, clutching her arm, but didn't complain. We bolted through the emergency exit and into the alley behind the clinic. That's when I saw him again, Clay Monroe, standing beside the van, this time not alone, with my uncle. The same uncle who'd sworn he had no stake in Dawson Holdings anymore. My blood turned to ice. They hadn't come for her, they'd come for me. She froze when she saw Clay. I didn't. I pulled her behind a dumpster as the alley narrowed. My mind raced. No security, no phone, no allies. I glanced at her. She looked dazed, trembling but focused. Her eyes locked on mine. "We run," she said. So we did. We cut through the alley, down an abandoned side street, past trash bins and shuttered storefronts. Behind us, tires screeched. Footsteps, voices yelling. I dragged her through the back door of a bakery, set off the alarm, and crashed out the delivery exit. By the time we hit the street, we were 2 blocks ahead and 1,000 pounds heavier with panic. We didn't stop running until we reached the harbor. She collapsed on a bench by the docks, gasping. I stood, pacing, shaking. "My uncle," I said finally. "He was on the Dawson board 20 years ago. He got forced out." She nodded slowly. "Now he's back, but not officially. He's working through Clay. The goal isn't just control of your father's assets. It's dismantling the Dawson empire and rebuilding it under Monroe's name. But why me? Because you're the key, the last legal heir, the one who can nullify the merger." I turned toward the water. The boats bobbed like ghosts. "I don't even remember signing the merger." "You didn't. They used a power of attorney, a forged one. I saw the documents." A pause. "They needed you to vanish. You survived." She touched my shoulder, then hesitated. When I turned, her hand was already sliding away, but I caught it. For a moment, she let me hold it. "You saved me tonight," she whispered. "No one's ever run with me before." The words landed heavier than I expected. We checked into a motel under false names, just one bed. She sat on the edge, wiping dried blood from her neck. I watched her in the dim light, unsure of what we were anymore. Partners, enemies, something blurred in between. She looked up. "You're not sleeping on the floor. The AC's broken, and I'm not going to stab you in your sleep." "That's not comforting," I said. She smirked. "Get in." I lay beside her, tension curling between us. For once, she didn't hide behind wit or control. She shifted slightly, head near my shoulder. "Do you ever think about what we could have been?" she asked. "If it hadn't started with lies?" "I try not to," I replied. She didn't answer, but her breathing slowed, and she fell asleep like someone finally let go. I didn't sleep. At sunrise, I left the room to grab food. When I came back, the door was cracked open. She was gone. On the pillow, in her place, was my watch, the one I hadn't worn since the accident. It was ticking again, and on the mirror written in lipstick, "Don't follow. This time, it's my turn to disappear." The watch ticked like a warning. It hadn't worked since the day of the accident. Now it hummed back to life, precise and defiant. I checked the timestamp. It matched the moment I first saw Clay and my uncle standing side by side outside the clinic. She knew something. She'd always known. But why leave me now? I searched the motel's street-facing cameras. No footage. The clerk claimed she left alone before dawn. No ID, no credit cards, nothing but the room key in a plastic cup. She didn't want to be followed. Too bad. I went to the only place I knew she'd avoid, Dawson Holdings HQ. The marble lobby was flooded with suits and sycophants. Everyone glanced at me like I'd crawled out of a tomb, but I didn't care. I took the executive elevator straight to the archives. The door was still coded to my fingerprint. Inside, I dug through physical contracts, decades of paper, legalese, and digital backups. I wasn't looking for her. I was looking for leverage, and I found it. A sealed folder marked Project Veto. My father's signature on a contingency clause. If fraud or coercion could be proven in any merger tied to our name, the inheritor, me, could void it, regardless of board approval. But the file was missing 3 pages. Pages I'd need to make it legal. And she had them. I leaned back in the leather chair, exhausted. That's when I heard the voice. "You were never meant to find that." Clay Monroe stood in the doorway. No guards, no threats, just confidence and teeth. "I knew she'd lead you here eventually," he said, "but I didn't think you'd come alone. I'm full of surprises." "So was your father." He stepped into the room slowly, like a hunter. "You want to know the truth," he said. "She was never yours." "Not really. She was your father's contingency." I stared. "What does that mean?" "She was raised to protect his legacy. Trained, positioned, funded, the engagement, the business, all of it. His idea." I didn't believe him. I couldn't. "You're lying." "Am I?" He pulled out a flash drive. "Check the recordings. Her school, her handler. He paid for it all. Your girlfriend was his failsafe." He tossed the drive onto the desk and walked away. The file opened easily. Security footage, transactions, conversations, a young version of her, rehearsing corporate etiquette, a man in shadows whispering her lines, my father's name on every wire transfer. My stomach turned. She hadn't just disappeared. She'd been deployed. That night I returned to the penthouse. I expected silence. Instead she was there, wet hair, torn sleeves, bruises on her arms. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her. "You went to the archives," she said. "You left me," I replied. She looked away. "They took someone close to me. I traded my silence for their life." "And the 3 missing pages?" She hesitated, then handed me an envelope. "Don't read them now. Just trust me. Wait until tomorrow." "Why?" "Because tonight, I need you to believe I'm still on your side." Her voice cracked. "Even if I don't deserve it." The moment stretched. Then she walked to me slowly until we stood chest to chest. Her fingers grazed my jaw, her breath hitched. "I'm scared," she whispered. I held her. For once, not out of strategy, but instinct. Then the glass shattered. Gunfire exploded through the windows. She screamed. I tackled her to the ground. When I looked up, someone was gone. Her. Blood on the carpet. I didn't know if it was hers or mine. The gunfire had stopped as fast as it started. I crawled from the shattered window, lungs burning with dust and disbelief. Outside, the skyline blinked like nothing had happened. Inside, my world kept bleeding. She was gone. No note this time. No lipstick on mirrors. Just the envelope she'd given me. Unopened, now stained. I didn't read it, not yet. Instead, I made one call. "Detective Ruiz," I said. "It's Mason Cross. I need off-the-record help." She answered like she'd been waiting. "You in danger?" "No, I'm in war." Within the hour, Ruiz met me in an underground garage with one condition: no questions she couldn't ask. I showed her the bullet casings, the drive Clay gave me, and what I'd found in the archives. She reviewed everything in silence. When she looked up, her voice was grim. "They're playing at federal levels, Mason. Offshore laundering, forged POAs, shell companies. You're not the mark, you're the loophole. And her? She's in deeper than you know, but she's not clean." I finally opened the envelope. The missing pages. Real, signed, watermarked, undeniable. Ruiz scanned them, then whistled. "You could take the whole board down with this. But only if I'm alive to file it." She nodded. I left her with copies and returned to the penthouse. Broken glass still crunched underfoot. I cleaned the blood with shaking hands. My mind ran in circles. What if Clay was right? What if she was a setup? My father's puppet, and why did it still hurt to imagine she never chose me? Near midnight, the power cut out. I grabbed a flashlight, tense. That's when I heard the knock, 3 soft taps. I opened the door and found a boy, maybe 10, pale, dirty, clutching something in his fist. He held out a bracelet. Hers, gold, broken clasp, a single sapphire missing. "She said to give this to you," he whispered. "She's in trouble. She saved me." "Where is she?" He looked around, panicked. "They're watching. She said don't follow. But if you do, come alone." He turned and ran before I could ask more. I stared at the bracelet for a long time. It was hers. I'd bought it for her during one of our fake vacations, a photo op in Santorini. She wore it even when she hated me. She still had it now. I booked a private jet with an alias, left the envelope in a vault, carried only the bracelet, the drive, and a name the boy had whispered, Vessel. The jet landed at an airstrip outside Lisbon. Someone waited, a woman in a gray trench coat. No smile, no greeting. "She's being held offshore," she said. "They're using her as bait." "For what?" "For you," she replied, "and for something she stole before she ran." I climbed into the speedboat without hesitation. Midway across the water, the woman handed me a photo. It was her, blindfolded, tied to a chair. On the back, a date and time. Tomorrow night. The sea was black glass. Vessel loomed ahead, an abandoned oil rig re-engineered into a floating fortress. Floodlights, steel walls, surveillance towers like eyes that didn't blink. They weren't hiding. They wanted me to come. The woman in the trench coat piloted us to the loading dock and said nothing as I stepped off. She didn't follow. I walked alone into a place that smelled like rust, salt, and betrayal. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The air was too still. I moved past silent corridors and empty rooms until a voice crackled through the overhead speakers. "You finally made it, Cross." Clay Monroe. "You always did have a flair for drama." Doors slammed behind me. I turned to find 2 men in black suits, armed. One motioned. "Upstairs." I followed. The top level was a converted boardroom, glass walls, one-way mirrors. At the head of the table sat Clay, smiling like he'd just bought the world. Beside him, my uncle. And in the corner, bound to a chair, bloodied but alive, her. "Let her go," I said. Clay raised a brow. "You're in no position to negotiate." "I have the documents. The real ones. Project Veto." He clapped once, slowly. "We know. You left them with Ruiz." I flinched. "She works for you." "Don't look so betrayed," he chuckled. "She was on your father's payroll before she was on ours. You were always surrounded by liars, Mason, even before the accident." My uncle finally spoke. "This isn't about you, boy. It's about legacy. Your father didn't trust you with his empire, so he built her instead." I looked at her. She didn't deny it. "He chose her," my uncle said. "But you were still the legal heir. That's why we needed you gone." My voice cracked. "You caused the accident." Clay stood. "We needed you to disappear. She was supposed to manage the fallout, keep the merger clean. She didn't. She fell in love with you," my uncle sneered. "And that ruined everything." The silence was colder than steel. Clay pulled out a pistol and set it on the table. "Let's make it simple," he said. "Sign a retraction. Relinquish your claim. We release her. You walk free." I stepped forward. "And if I don't?" He smiled. "Then we start removing things you care about." Her eyes met mine then. Raw, honest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't want this. I didn't think I'd feel anything." I moved before the sentence finished, knocked the gun off the table, tackled Clay. Shots rang out. Someone screamed. I grabbed her, untied her hands, shoved her toward the stairs. We ran. Chaos followed. My uncle yelling, footsteps, alarms. By the time we reached the loading dock, the boat was gone. She was wheezing, struggling to keep up. I grabbed a flare from the wall, fired it into the sky. Nothing. No help came. We backed into the shadows as guards spread out across the platform. "You shouldn't have come," she said. I turned to her. "I didn't come for revenge." "Then why?" I stepped closer, heart pounding. "Because even if none of it was real, this is." I kissed her, and for a moment, the world paused. Then, footsteps. A spotlight locked onto us. A voice barked, Take them alive. There's a strange calm before capture, like the moment you stop running and start calculating. She gripped my hand as the guards closed in. I looked around. Steel walkways, 2 exits, both blocked. The water below shimmered, black and cold. They thought they had us, but they didn't know what she'd hidden. She moved first, kicked the nearest guard in the knee, sent him into the rail. I grabbed the fallen stun baton and dropped the next one before he could raise his gun. We pushed through the gap, sprinting toward the maintenance stairwell. She shouted over her shoulder, "Lower level, there's a subdock." "What?" "I paid a man weeks ago, in case this went wrong." It had. We plunged into the lower decks, chased by shouts and footsteps, rusted metal, leaking pipes, the smell of oil and desperation. Finally, a hatch. She ripped it open, yanked me inside, and slammed it shut. Below us, a narrow service tunnel. At the far end, a half-submerged speedboat. Old, loud, barely floating. We jumped in. The engine coughed like it hadn't been used in years. But it started. Bullets pinged off the water as we tore into the night. She leaned into the throttle, hair whipping, eyes wild. "You trusted me," she said. I didn't answer, because I didn't know if I had, or if I just wanted to. By dawn, we reached the mainland, a rocky beach, deserted. She collapsed onto the sand, shivering. I joined her. Neither of us spoke, not until the sun broke the horizon. "I didn't lie about everything," she said softly. "He trained me, yes, but I made choices, Mason, not all of them his." "Then tell me," I said, turning to face her. "When did you stop working for him?" She didn't blink. "The night you almost died." I believed her, not because it made sense, but because it hurt too much not to. We stayed like that for hours, just us and the ocean, no lies, no boardrooms, no cameras. Later that day, we checked into a safe house, one she'd prepared long before I remembered who I was. Everything was stocked. Cash, documents, weapons, even clothes in my size. She'd always known this moment might come. As we unpacked, she held out a small phone. "One call," she said. "You can end it. Leak everything. Burn them all." "And you?" She looked down. "I disappear. If I stay, they'll come for you again. And next time, they won't miss." I stared at the phone, then threw it across the room. "We end this. Together." She smiled, barely, but it was real. That night, in the silence of the safe house, she reached for me. No games, no strategy, just her and me. A brief, quiet closeness after weeks of deceit. But even then, I felt it. The shift in the air, the warning. A second before the explosion, the wall behind us blew open. I covered her with my body as debris rained down. Voices outside, tactical boots, orders shouted. Then the front door creaked, and a voice I hadn't heard in years called out, "Stand down, Mason, you're coming home." My father, alive. I didn't move. The dust hadn't even settled, and still I knew that voice. It wasn't a memory. It was real. "Mason," he called again. "Come out, let's talk." I turned to her. She was still on the ground, bleeding from a cut across her shoulder, stunned. "Did you know?" I whispered. She shook her head, lips parted in shock. "No, I swear." I believed her, but it didn't matter. The front door burst open. Men in tactical gear stormed in, not mercs this time, military trained, faces obscured, efficient. I raised my hands slowly. No point in fighting, not now. A path cleared, and there he was, gray-haired, leaner, but still him. Gerald Cross, my father, alive. "I had to disappear," he said calmly, like we were resuming a conversation, not waking the dead. "There were things in motion, enemies I couldn't fight from the front." "So you faked your death," I said coldly. "Let me think I was alone, that we were alone." He nodded. "To protect the legacy." "Your legacy." "No," he corrected. "Yours." Behind him, she stood, stiff, guarded. "I trained her," he said without shame. "Built her for this. But she did more than I asked. She made you human again." I stepped forward. "Why now? Why reveal yourself?" "Because it's over," he said. "Clay went rogue. Your uncle betrayed us both. Vessel was never meant to be a prison. It was a test. You passed." And now I need you to come home." I laughed. "There's no home left." He raised a hand. One of the soldiers brought forward a briefcase. Inside, documents, contracts, codes. "Everything," he said. "All of it. The original merger files, the board's bribes, Clay's offshore accounts. If you sign here, the empire is yours. Undisputed, public, legal." I stared at the pen, then at him. "Where does that leave her?" I asked. "She disappears. New identity, cash. She'll be protected, but out of the picture." "No." He stiffened. "She was never meant to stay, Mason." "She saved me," I said. "More than you ever did." She stepped beside me then. "If you want me gone, I'll go," she said softly. "But you won't have him." My father's eyes darkened. "You'd throw this away for her?" "No," I said. "I'll take it." They both turned to me. "I'll sign. I'll rebuild. But she stays. As my partner. Not your spy. Not your pawn." Silence. Then slowly Gerald nodded. "So be it." He turned to leave. "I'll be watching, Mason. Don't fail." As the convoy pulled out, she exhaled for the first time. "You didn't have to choose me." "I didn't," I said. "I chose us." That night, we stood in the ruins of the safe house, surrounded by folders that could burn empires to the ground. She touched my hand. "You know this makes you the most dangerous man in the city now." I looked at her. "No, we are," she smiled. But before the moment could settle, my burner phone buzzed. A message, no sender ID. She wasn't the only one he trained. "Look behind you." I turned, and a knife pressed to my throat. The knife was cold. Not a tremble in the hand holding it. A voice, low and smooth. "Move, and your throat opens like a page." She froze behind me, arms half raised. "Who sent you?" I asked, barely breathing. "You already know." I did. It was never going to be that easy. Even in surrender, my father played a longer game. The man stepped into view, early 30s, dark buzz cut, eyes like polished stone, efficient, merciless, another product of Gerald Cross's legacy. "I was supposed to kill you on vessel," he said. "But Clay insisted on theatrics. My orders were updated. And now? Now I clean up what your father started." He tightened the blade. I could feel my pulse against it. Then she moved. No warning, no words. She tackled him sideways, arm snapping down across his wrist. The knife clattered to the floor as I twisted and drove my elbow into his temple. He staggered. We didn't let him recover. I pinned him. She found the knife. He smirked through blood. "You still don't get it. You think he only trained one of us?" Her face went white. "What?" I asked. "He's not the last," the assassin said. "There are others. And you've already met one." I didn't wait for more. We tied him up, drugged him with a sedative from our field kit, and shoved him into the storm shelter beneath the ruins. Temporary, but secure. As I shut the latch, she whispered, "There's someone else. Someone still playing both sides." "Who?" She shook her head. "I don't know, but he trained us differently. There was a girl, older than me, quiet. She disappeared during my final phase. The program erased her." I clenched my fists. "She's not erased. She's embedded." That night, I finally opened the drive my father left behind. It wasn't just evidence. It was a roadmap. Files on every player, board members, lobbyists, hired killers. Bank transfers, codes, surveillance from a decade-long shadow network, and one video, unmarked. I played it. My father, in a black room. If you're seeing this, it means I failed. Or I got soft. Maybe you reminded me what legacy should mean. But if I didn't, this is the part I never wanted you to learn. He leaned in, voice lower. "There's a second heir." I stopped the video, looked at her. "No," she whispered. "That can't be." I hit play again. "She's older, hidden. A result of a deal I made to protect your mother. I trained them both, you and her. You were the empire. She was the insurance." The screen cut to static. I stood, shaking. "So all this wasn't about choosing me or you. It was about testing us." She nodded, hollow. "And the winner," she said, "gets the throne." Then the safe house lights cut out. The front door creaked open. Footsteps, soft, deliberate, and a woman's voice from the dark. "I've come to collect what's mine." The woman stepped into the light like she'd always belonged there, tall, composed, raven black hair, same gray eyes as my father. She didn't blink, didn't hesitate. She was the storm we never saw coming. "I'm Evelyn," she said. "Your sister." I said nothing. She didn't wait for permission. "You were the face," she continued. "The name, the charm, the accident. I was the blade in the dark, raised to inherit what you couldn't hold." Beside me she tensed. The woman I trusted, the woman who'd betrayed and saved me. Evelyn looked at her. "You were just a handler, a bridge, not blood." She didn't flinch. "Then try crossing me." I stepped between them. "What do you want?" Evelyn smiled, cold and patient. "Control, consolidation, peace, all things you've proved incapable of delivering." "Because I refused to kill for it?" "No," she said. "Because you hesitated." She reached into her coat and dropped a folder onto the floor. It slid open. Photos of me. Her, my father, the assassin downstairs, and a map with red circles on cities I hadn't visited in years. Surveillance. "So this was all a test?" I asked. "Every step," Evelyn replied. "Your father built a legacy on manipulation, and now one of us finishes it." "You mean takes it?" She shrugged. "Finish, take, rule. Words change, results don't." I looked at her. "You came here to kill me?" "No," she said. "I came to offer you a choice." She gestured at the documents still spread from the flash drive. "You burn it all, you disappear, we pretend you never existed, and I rebuild the empire from what's left, quietly, effectively. And if I don't?" Her hand dipped back into her coat. She tossed something else onto the floor. A small velvet box. I opened it. Inside, my mother's ring, the one buried with her. "Where did you get this?" She didn't answer, but her meaning was clear. My father's secret wasn't just a second heir. It was a deal, one that had cost my mother her life. My voice was ice. "You were there." She didn't deny it. "I was the price. You were the cover. He couldn't protect both." The silence that followed burned more than any truth I'd heard yet. Behind me, the woman who had saved me, the only person who chose me without obligation, stepped forward. "We'll never give it to you." Evelyn tilted her head. "Then you'll die like the rest." She turned and walked toward the exit, but paused in the doorway. "You have 48 hours. Surrender, or I bury everything, including her." She vanished into the night. The air seemed to collapse around us. I stared at the box, at the ring, at the weight of legacies built on graves. She reached for my hand. "What now?" she asked. I looked at her, no longer just my father's creation, but my only ally. "Now," I said, "we turn the empire against itself." We had 48 hours, not to run, to retaliate. The first move? Disappear from the grid. She wiped our digital footprints, scrubbed burner lines, rerouted our locations through half a dozen dead zones. We ghosted ourselves even as Evelyn's network undoubtedly watched. Then we split up. I flew under a dead alias to Geneva, to a bank vault only 2 people knew existed, my father and the man who forged my birth certificate. Inside, a hard drive, old, heavy, cold as betrayal. I plugged it in within the vault. It beeped once, hundreds of files, voice recordings, contracts, videos, and one folder marked Phase 3. I didn't open it, not yet. Meanwhile, she moved on Evelyn's informants. A retired board member in Morocco, a silenced PR handler in Chicago. One by one, she reopened wounds and extracted truths. It was the PR woman, drunk, broken, who finally confessed. "There was no mother," she said. "Not anymore. Gerald gave her up for leverage. Evelyn's existence was the bargain. The ring? It's not just sentimental. It's biometric access." "To what?" "Your inheritance. The real one." Back in Lisbon, we regrouped. She laid out a blueprint, a corporate labyrinth designed to funnel all Dawson and Cross holdings into one blind trust, triggered by biometric match. "That's why Evelyn's here now," she said. "The trust activates this month. If she gets to the servers before you..." She owns everything. I nodded. Then we beat her to it. We boarded a private jet under 2 new aliases. Destination, Singapore, where the trust's legal backend was quietly headquartered in a nondescript 30-story tower. On the flight, we sat in silence until she finally asked, "What's in Phase 3? I pulled out the hard drive, opened the folder. 1 file, a video. Gerald Cross, again, older, harsher. If Evelyn finds you, she won't negotiate. She was conditioned differently, emotionless, efficient. If she has the ring, she'll find the vault, and when she does, the trust goes to her." He leaned forward. "Unless you activate the override, it's biometric, but dual. Hers, and yours." I paused the video. "She needs me alive," I whispered. She stared at me. "So she's not trying to kill you, just corner you." I nodded slowly. "She wants the signature. My blood, my fingerprint." "Or your corpse," she said flatly. "Whichever is easier to fake." We landed at dawn. Singapore pulsed with light and precision. The legal building sat in a business district like any other. Glass, steel, lies. We entered through the basement, using a contact of hers from years ago. By mid-afternoon, we reached the 29th floor. Inside, vault security, biometric locks, pressure-sensitive floors. We began setup, custom readers, isolation mode, countdown window, 12 minutes. Then the alarm tripped. I looked at her. Not a word spoken. She grabbed the gun. I grabbed the override chip. Footsteps echoed, and Evelyn entered. Alone. Calm. Dressed in black. "This is where it ends," she said. "No," I replied. "This is where I rewrite it." We stepped toward the reader. She raised her gun. "Don't," I warned. "You shoot me. You don't get the match." She smirked. "That's why I won't shoot you." A bang. She shot the woman beside me. I caught her before she fell, blood blooming fast across her ribs. "No," I whispered. Evelyn stepped closer. "Sign it, Mason," she said, "or she bleeds out." Her blood was warm, too warm. She collapsed against me, gasping, gripping my collar like that might keep her anchored. I pressed down on the wound, but it was deep, just below the ribs, an artery, maybe worse. "She needs a hospital," I said, voice cracking. "No time," Evelyn said, calm as winter. "You want her to live, Mason? Sign the trust. Use the reader. Then we'll fly her out on my jet." I stared up at her, hands slick with blood. "If I give it to you, she lives." I looked down at her. She met my eyes, barely conscious. "Don't," she mouthed. I hesitated, and in that moment I remembered. Not just what she'd done, the betrayals, the secrets, but what she hadn't done. She'd never abandoned me, even when I was a pawn, even when I didn't remember her name. She chose me. I looked at Evelyn. "You know what this trust gives you?" "Everything," she said. I stood. "Then earn it." I moved to the biometric reader, holding my bleeding partner upright with one arm. With the other, I placed my finger on the scanner. The machine blinked green. Evelyn stepped forward, ready to place her own. That's when I moved. I triggered the override. The screen flashed red and locked. "What did you do?" "I shut it down," I said. "You wanted control. I killed it instead." Her face twisted. She lunged. I fired first. The bullet grazed her shoulder. Not fatal, but enough to drop her. 2 of her backup men burst through the door. I dragged my partner behind the vault shield, hit the emergency lockdown, and pressed the call button for medical evac. Sirens wailed. In the chaos, I grabbed Evelyn's briefcase and ran. We left her bleeding on the floor, surrounded by armed guards, too stunned to stop us. 2 hours later, we were in the air, bound for Zurich. She lay in the jet's medical bay, pale but alive. I watched every rise of her chest, every flicker of pain behind her eyelids. When she woke, she smiled faintly. "You didn't give it to her." "No," I said. "I gave it to no one." She reached for my hand. "Good." "I destroyed it," I whispered. The override code was designed to wipe the trust if both heirs tried to seize it through force. My father's last insurance policy. "So it's over?" I shook my head. "No, it's never over." I opened Evelyn's briefcase. Inside, names, accounts, kill orders, and one last folder marked Phase 4. I handed it to her. We finish it. Not for power, for peace. She nodded, eyes burning with resolve. Then the jet screen lit up with an incoming call. Blocked. Unknown, I answered. My father's voice crackled through. I warned you not to choose her. The line went dead. Then the jet lurched. Oxygen masks dropped. We were falling. We were going down. Alarms screamed. Panels burst open. The cabin shook violently as altitude warnings lit every screen. She lay strapped on the stretcher, drifting in and out. I gripped the emergency intercom. What happened? The pilot's voice cracked through. Engines 1 and 2 just cut. Override code. We've been hacked from remote command. Brace for impact. I grabbed her hand. She smiled weakly. If this is it, I'm glad it's with you. It's not, I said, sealing her oxygen mask. Because I wasn't done. We crashed into a snow-covered ridge on the outskirts of northern Italy. The tail split. The wing caught fire. But somehow we survived. The pilot didn't. I pulled her from the wreckage, both of us bruised, barely upright. We stumbled through the snow until we reached a mountain road and flagged down a transport van from a local farm. We rode in silence. She slept against me, her head warm, her breath shallow. I opened the final folder from Evelyn's briefcase. Phase 4. It wasn't financial. It was human. A list of agents, dozens, trained by my father, embedded in governments, corporations, law enforcement. A legacy of control, of contingency. Not just a plan to preserve power, a design to own the world from the shadows. And one page was marked, Mason, activate if compromised. It included a biometric kill switch, coordinates, protocols, a warhead with my name on it. He never trusted me, not really. She stirred beside me. I held her tightly. We end this, not with force, with exposure. We reached Milan by nightfall. In a quiet apartment above a retired journalist's bookstore, an old friend of hers, we uploaded Phase 4 to 6 secure channels, 1 to the press, 1 to the Interpol archive, 2 to financial regulators, 2 to private security firms we knew weren't compromised. It would take 72 hours to go public. That gave us time for one final move. She opened the last compartment of the briefcase, a tracker, still blinking, still active. Gerald's final backup is live, she said. A private estate in Montenegro, underground facility, secure, and vulnerable, if we go now. Why would we walk into his stronghold? I asked. Because that's where he's hiding, and because he still thinks you want answers. I nodded slowly. This ends with him. She packed the bag. I loaded the pistol. We left the apartment before dawn. We flew into Montenegro on forged credentials, hired locals to guide us through the mountain trails. By midnight, we had eyes on the estate, a fortress, guarded, remote, cold. I looked at her. One last time? I asked. She smiled faintly. No more times after this. We moved in, quiet, surgical. But the door to the underground facility was already open, like he knew we'd come. Inside, the lights flickered on. A single chair in the middle of the room, a camera blinking red, and a voice playing through the speaker. Welcome home, Mason. Shall we talk? The voice echoed like it was speaking from inside my spine. Welcome home, Mason. She stepped beside me, weapon raised, eyes sharp. But the corridor was empty. No heat signatures, no guards, only the chair and the blinking camera. I stepped forward. You planned this? The speaker clicked. Of course I did. You're not unpredictable, just stubborn. It's your greatest flaw and your only virtue. I moved to the terminal next to the chair. A monitor flared to life. My father's face. Live. He looked tired, older than before. Maybe for the first time, human. I suppose you found everything, he said. The trust, the backups, the agents. I found the rot, I said. And I'm burning it. He sighed. You've always been dramatic. No, I said. You have. Faking your death, training heirs like weapons, turning your own son into bait. It was never about you, he snapped. It was about continuity, about building something bigger than either of us. Then why hide? I asked. Because I couldn't trust the world to choose you, he said. But I knew pain would shape you better than praise ever could. She stepped forward now. You shot me, she said coldly. Nearly killed me. He looked at her through the screen. And yet, you're still here. Because deep down, you know I was right. No, I cut in. She's here because she chose to be. Something you never gave any of us. He smiled faintly. You came to destroy me. I respect that. But before you do, there's one last offer. A file appeared on the screen. Encryption, coordinates, the final layer of Phase 4. You leak what you have, he said, and they shut it down, one piece at a time, quietly. You control it now, or they bury it and wait for the next son of a billionaire to be born. What's your point? Don't leak it, use it, take it. The board will follow you, the world will bend. You want me to replace you. I want you to win. Silence fell. Then I reached for the console. He leaned in. Think carefully. I keyed in the command line and launched the global upload. The screen glitched. Sirens flared. Vaults unlocked across the world. Identities exposed. Accounts frozen. Thousands of files sent to regulators, prosecutors, journalists. He didn't speak. He just watched. I'm not you, I said. Pity, he whispered. Then the screen went black. Explosions echoed through the estate. Automated locks disengaged. He'd triggered his own purge. We ran. Smoke filled the halls. The roof cracked. We pushed through flames, past collapsing beams until we reached the surface. A helicopter hovered low, our last escape. She clung to my hand as we boarded, blood on her sleeve, sweat on her brow. As we rose into the sky, I looked down. Gerald Cross's empire, stone, steel, secrecy, reduced to ash. She rested her head on my shoulder. What happens now? She asked. I thought of the agents scattered across continents, of the names we'd freed, of the lies we buried beneath truth. I wrapped my arm around her. We live, I said. For once, just live. The world didn't end, but it shifted. Within 24 hours of the upload, media broke globally. Headlines screamed. Governments scrambled. Names were named. Boardroom tyrants, political moles, double agents. Interpol launched parallel raids. Bank accounts froze. People vanished. The cross name lit up news feeds, burned across courtroom summons, and became synonymous with control, collapse, and betrayal. I wasn't hunted. I was dissected. Every move I'd ever made, every silence, every photo of me and her, pixelated, analyzed, debated. But I didn't run. We disappeared, yes, quietly, precisely, on our terms. No more mansions, no more penthouses or glass towers. Just an old stone villa overlooking the Adriatic Sea, once used by smugglers, now reclaimed by ghosts. We repaired it with our own hands. Every brick was slower than fury. Every sunrise, quieter than guilt. I didn't inherit a throne. I buried it. Some days she would vanish into the orchard, barefoot, silent. Others we'd argue about furniture, and on quiet nights we'd sit on the roof, the stars above us, the world finally still. One morning a letter arrived. No stamp, no sender, just a wax seal I hadn't seen in months. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside, one photograph, us, candid, laughing, taken from a distance, and 2 words on the back. You passed. No signature, no threat. We burned the photo without a word. But I didn't sleep for days. Because even empires that fall leave embers. She caught me pacing near the window one night. You think he's still alive? She asked. I think someone is, I said. She nodded. Do we keep running? No, I said. We keep choosing. That's the difference. She walked to me, slid her arms around my waist. So, what do you choose now? I looked into her eyes, the only honest thing left from a life built on secrets. Peace, I said, even if we have to fight to keep it. She smiled, and I knew. This wasn't an ending. It was the first time I had ever begun.